All right, we're going to get started here tonight. I want to thank everybody for watching online and everyone that's came tonight. Most importantly, I want to thank our candidates for school board that have come tonight. We're going to start with a Pledge of Allegiance tonight, so if you would stand with me as we say the pledge, and then we'll have an opening prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would go with me in prayer. Lord Jesus, I thank you, Lord, tonight for the opportunity, Lord, to be here and to fulfill a civic duty of ours, that we come and, Lord, in your name, and Lord, we promote biblical principles in our community, in our school, and we have a chance, Lord, to talk to these candidates tonight. So, Lord, I pray for them. I pray that they're not nervous tonight. Lord, I thank you for our country, that we live in a country where we can do this. There's a lot of places around the world, Lord, that can't do this. So I thank you, Lord, tonight that we're able to be here and to ask questions and to meet. And so, Lord, just be with us tonight in everything. We glorify and honor you. In your name I pray. Amen. All right. I want to thank you all again. The format for tonight, if you're watching online, is going to be that I'm going to ask the candidates a series of questions, and then the audience will have an opportunity to ask any questions. And if you have a question you would like to ask the candidates, you can write it underneath the live feed. We have someone working the media tonight that he will get those questions to me as we go through. So I just want to thank you guys again for coming tonight, and I thank all of you for volunteering for this. So I also want to say that thank Crossbridge Baptist Church for letting us use the facilities and the mics and all of that. They are not sponsoring it, but they're letting us use the facilities. So I thank them for that. So my first question tonight is, I want you to introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself, why you're running for school board, and what qualifications do you have that may separate you from the other candidates here tonight. So we're each, I'm going to jump back and forth. We're going to start with Jill and work our way down, and then we'll go back the other way. So Jill, you get to start on the first question.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? So I just wanted to thank everybody, especially the Conservative Christian Political Action Committee, for hosting this event tonight, and Jeff Mann for reaching out to me and telling me how to get here. And I'd like to acknowledge the other school board candidates. I really enjoyed reading all your profiles in the Marshfield Mail this week, and I have to say that really no matter what the outcome of this election, I felt great about every one of it. I'd probably vote for any of them. So I just wanted you to know that. And it was interesting to me that all of us really said in different ways about the same thing that we were concerned about with the school, and that was reassuring to me also. So no matter what the outcome of the election, I think the school's going to come out really well with this. So to tell you about myself and what my qualifications might be, I would, in just the interest of time, I'll refer you to the article that was published in the Marshfield Mail this week, and it covered a lot of the details. So if you have questions, that may be a good resource. I did bring a copy of my part of that in case somebody wanted to look at it later. So to summarize, though, my qualifications, I do have a master's degree it's in nursing education, but it is nursing, and a bachelor's degree in nursing from Southwest Baptist University, and a diploma in nursing from St. John's School of Nursing. So in terms of religious education, I've had quite a wide range between the Catholics and the Baptists, and we all got along great, so it was a good education. But one of the things that they teach at Southwest Baptist University is servant leadership, and so that, just to explain it, is that people don't know they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so that's kind of my philosophy, is all work I've ever done is kind of a ministry to me. And you have to know how to try to work with other people and bring out their strengths and weaknesses. And servant leadership means it's not about me, it's about collaboration and working as a team and to try to accomplish goals. And in servant leadership, people are treated with dignity and respect, and they strive to never deprive somebody else of their dignity in interactions, because you're going to have disagreements when you do anything like this in the community service line. You're going to have disagreements, but you never have to take away somebody's dignity. And so that's really important to me. And then having honesty and integrity, fairness, and then good stewardship. Those are all parts of servant leadership.
Okay, thank you. Travis Hammonds, you're going to be up next.
All right, like you said, my name's Travis Hammonds. Lifelong resident of the Elkland area. Grew up out there on the farm. Graduated from Marshfield High School in 2002. My wife and I have been married about 18 years. We have 3 children who all attend the Marshfield School District. I guess you could say I have a servant's heart. I currently work for MoDOT, but previously spent 15 years working for Mercy, formerly St. John's, as a paramedic, a flight paramedic, critical care transport type of situation. Just really enjoy helping other people. I kind of took an interest wanting to be on the school board after just kind of talking with some friends. And, often people want to be a part of the results, but they don't want to be a part of the work that it takes to get there. So for me, I grew up on the farm. I'm not afraid of hard work. I feel like I'm very well rooted in my Christian beliefs, and just like to take a common sense conservative approach to solving problems. And so for me, I think I can just make good decisions, and I want to be a part of the solution, but I also want to work on the problem.
Thank you. Jeanette.
Jeanette Clark and my husband Todd and I have lived here, both of us, all of our lives. We both graduated from Marshfield. A lot of people know him from working with the city. He worked with the police department for 15 years, and he's now active duty Navy. So with that, being a servant is just something we model to our children. I've always volunteered at the school, enjoyed being an active part of their education, and of course school parties, that kind of thing. So I felt like school board was just the next step for me as my kids got older. Of course, I think that we have a wonderful board, wonderful school district, and I would just like to help keep the ball rolling in the positive way that it is, and with conservative Christian values.
Good, thank you. Tara.
I'm Tara Thomas, and I have my husband Nate, who is a teacher and coach, and we've been married for 20 years, have 2 kids in the Marshfield School District, and I don't know that my education qualifies me necessarily to be on anything in any special way to be on the school board, but I'm a pharmacist, have my doctorate of pharmacy, and have been in school a long time. But I just think being on the school board, would be something I could do to help with some of the great teachers and the counselors and all the support staff that Marshfield has that have really blessed my children, and be able to hopefully help make decisions that are going to benefit them and our kids and the community. So hopefully I could just help in that way. I'm not one that talks a lot and makes a big scene. I'm good at listening, thinking rationally, and then hopefully coming up with a solution. So hopefully that would be helpful in the school board.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything crazy that goes on at the meetings currently, but I think that's a good approach to it.
Okay, good. Mark.
Mark Messick, a lifelong resident of Marshfield, took a little hiatus in grad school down in Texas for a few years. Served on the school board the last 3 years. Was fortunate enough to get elected. Why I'm running, feel like it's a civic duty for the school. It's not like a paid position or anything like that. And as you see right now, I think we're in a really good position on that. Everybody that's on the school board currently is kids first. It really seems that way. And I've enjoyed being part of that. It's been a rough time with COVID years and some other things. But I think it's a big part of it. And I do want to mention that we promise you, I know you guys read the stuff in our articles, we did not copy and paste in the paper. I know that you probably read those. And I thought the exact same thing on that. But As Rhea mentioned, I think we're all very like-minded right now here, and we're just doing it as a servant's heart or of our civic duty, and concerned about the kids in the school district as a whole and the community as a whole.
Okay,
So,
good, thank you. Second question of mine, and we'll start with you, Mark. What major issues do you think that Marshfield schools are facing right now, and any particular issue that you're really passionate about?
you know, the biggest issue, and of course it's not just like Marshfield, at schools in general, is shortage of teachers. And that's not only at the high school level, but even at the college level. There's a lot of programs that have done away with their education department. So one of the big struggles in Marshfield, we pay decently. We're not the Springfield schools. Mm-hmm. We are a rural community to an extent, but that's probably the biggest is retaining teachers, is getting teachers to come in and retain our teachers. We have lifted something on that. I don't know, we've had for a long time on the school, they had the frozen, their salaries frozen. Well, with the administration, they've been able to lift that, which has been very helpful. I think the new 4-day school week will help bringing in new teachers on that aspect. That's probably the biggest problem. And then the second biggest problem, hey, we are a growing community. And there's going to be time that we're going to need more facilities and stuff like that. Without grown, they've done a lot of remodeling stuff on Hubble right now, which has been needed because it's a very, very old school. But that, in my opinion, that's probably the biggest thing. But not only and I should say just teachers. We want quality teachers. We don't want put heinies in the seat, so to speak. We want somebody that's there for a reason.
Sure.
So.
Okay. Tara, same question. What major issues do you think Marshfield schools are facing? Any particular issue that you're passionate about?
Well, like the article, and we all kind of mentioned the staffing and making sure we're getting the best people in Marshfield and retaining the great ones that we already have. And I know there's a lot of good teacher candidates out there that are going to be coming available, but I think there needs to be some programs just within colleges to attract teachers. I mean, when you can have someone graduate or not even go to college and go make the same amount of money or more elsewhere, it's really hard to get people to take a job where they're going to have to be possibly paying back student loans and not getting paid as much. So I think, options for school, having scholarships for, teaching programs that might attract more people into the field would be beneficial. And then also, support staff, bus drivers, we have, substitute teachers, there's, a need in all this, most schools right now. So trying to come up with things that's going to make sure to bring the best ones to Marshfield, I think, is something that we can all work on. And I know there's a bill being proposed about posting what you're teaching, and I don't know that would necessarily bring more teachers into the field, and it probably would push some more out. And so I don't think that would be anything beneficial for teachers, as far as most teachers already have syllabus or syllabi that they provide with those outlines. And so I don't think that would be beneficial for anyone for that problem. And then also, class sizes are going to be an issue with less teachers available, and having to have bigger class sizes is going to probably drive away more teachers also.
Okay, thank you. Jeanette.
So I hate to be a broken record, but of course staffing, and I didn't mention before, but I'm a hairstylist, so I have a lot of public interaction, and I ask what people think, what's on their minds, and I've asked some of my teachers that are clients, why is the job harder, and over and over I hear that they have to come up with teaching plans, because things are constantly changing through the state level and their requirements, and there's no books anymore for them to go and come up with. They're having to do all of it from scratch. So hopefully the 4-day week will, bring good teachers, that will be a big benefit for them. I'm very hopeful that COVID is ending, and maybe we will have more, kids that are wanting to go into education. Hopefully this is a short-lived problem, Unfortunately, that doesn't make it any easier right now, but that is my hope. So I think a lot of those problems we're going to have to just see how things go, because you can only graduate, a teacher has to go through a program, so we have several years that it's going to be impacting, for a while. I think our school has did a great job navigating COVID and keeping our kids in session. One thing that I am very passionate about would be I would love to see the junior ROTC program come back. Lots of people don't know that we lost that, and that is, they learn basic military skills and they can go in with an advanced rank if they choose to pursue a military career. So I think that there's I've heard of lots of kids that would benefit, want to do that program, and we don't offer it anymore.
Good. Thank you. Travis.
Not to beat the dead horse, I mean, obviously I agree with all the staffing issues and all that. So in the spirit of that, I think some of the other issues, with all the COVID stuff that's went on and all the stress, we've been fortunate that, every student's been able to have a free meal every day at school if they need to. But now, from what I understand, there's possibly talk that might end before long. And, with going to a 4-day school week, that's also something we need to keep in the back of our mind, that some of these kids, that may be a meal on that day of the week that they're not able to get anymore. I know there's a lot of plans in place for, after school or daycare type situation with the Boys and Girls Club. But, some of those, the meals for the kids and another big issue just is some of the mental health, the stressors of all this, and the mental health for the kids and the staff is something that we need to keep in the forefront so that they don't kind of fall through the cracks.
Okay. Thank you. Jill.
Well, I had listed everything everybody else did too. I think we're all in agreement, but my number one was to improve and measure academic progress. If you look at our test scores, for the last ones that I could find were 19, but I think the 20s are out there too. And our academic test scores are not what they should be. When we moved to Marshfield 17 years ago, that was one reason that we chose this community, is because the academic performance of the school overall was very good. It was rated very highly, and that's kind of gone downhill. And I don't think that we need to blame anybody about that. I think there's probably many reasons for that. But our graduation rates are still good compared to other people in the state. So I think that's exciting. But academic improvement is something that we all have to get on board. And my pet project is trying to involve parents a little bit more. I don't think there's anything more frustrating than your kids having a problem, or they call you and no, you can't get you don't really feel like anybody's hearing you or listening to what you're saying or concerned. And that's just not a criticism of the school, but I think as parents, we probably all either experienced it or heard a friend who is like, I've got this going on and I don't even know what to do. Nobody's responding. So parents need to be engaged, and they need to have the message that, hey, we need you in the school system. We need your involvement, and we need you, your input, so that your kids are excelling, because I really feel like nobody knows how a kid learns better than their parents do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so our organization that started 2 years ago that's sponsoring tonight, as you mentioned, is a conservative Christian organization that wants to promote Christians serving in civic duty in our government offices and in the school board. So tell us tonight, if you're a member of a local body of believers, how are you currently serving in that congregation? If not, what other ways are you currently serving in the community? So I'd like to start with you, Jeanette.
So we are members of the Well, which we have been members for, I believe, the past 6 years. We now have a Marshfield campus, which we're very excited about. All of us serve. My husband serves in security and greeting, and my oldest daughter serves in the kids department and greeting, and my youngest daughter serves with the youth, and she serves as a greeter, and she also serves with the creative department, which is taking pictures and different things like that. And then I kind of just float around. I've did hospitality, I've did greeting, I've did kids, and me and my husband also were very passionate about marriages, and we do what's called SYMBIS, which is saving your marriage before it starts, and it's like a premarital counseling with engaged couples, and we really enjoy that a lot. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Travis.
My entire family attends Timber Ridge Baptist Church out in Elkland. As far as how I serve, actually coming up in April, I'm going to be teaching Sunday school for the month of April for the adult class. Also, I fill in sometimes for our preacher when he's gone, preach on Sunday. Over the last several months, I've actually been traveling to some other small churches that are in need, that are without pastor, and preaching at them, just trying to go where God takes me.
Good. Thank you. Tara.
I go to Timber Ridge Baptist Church also, and my husband and I teach Sunday school, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and it's a pretty great church, and that's mainly what we've been helping with there.
Okay, good. Jill.
I go to a tiny little church out by my house where I think I'm the only one that isn't related to everybody else who goes there. But it's awesome. And it says it's Mount Pisgah Baptist Church on the door. And so I asked them one day, because I'd gone there a long time, and I said, well, is this a Baptist church? And they said, well, not really, but the sign's so cool, we didn't want to take it down. And I was like, okay. Anyway, they're all it's a very small church. And so I guess my big thing that I do is I'm a harpist, and I have a nonprofit organization called Harps for the Heart, and we play at the bedside, like for hospice patients, for sick people that are unwell, and also for their families and staff, which we sometimes go in the hospital to do that. So I've done that since 2002. COVID's kind of wrecked that, because it's real difficult sometimes to get in care homes or whatever. But that's been sort of my ministry when I'm not working.
Okay, good. Thank you. And Mark.
Jill, it doesn't matter how big your church, as long as the word's preached. That's the bottom line. Doesn't matter what's on the building, what name's on it. I am currently a deacon at Faith Southern Baptist Church. My wife and I teach the preschool 1st and 2nd grade class. I have anywhere from 4 to 9 to 12 kids in that class, so sometimes it can be a little interesting, keeping their attention span. Also the Sunday school director at Faith Southern there. As far as community work, I am a current school board member, at least for the next week, or less than a week on that. And I don't know if it's a civic duty, but I help coach a lot of baseball teams and basketball teams and football teams. So I don't know if that's civic duty or not, but I'm involved with a lot of the little guys around the areas. So that's
good.
That's my spiel.
All right, thank you. All right, so a couple of questions on social issues that have been brought up to me numerous times in the last year. Right now, as we've seen on the national news, many parents of daughters are concerned about new government policies allowing males to compete against females in sports, biological males against females. What will your position be, and how will you direct the administration to handle this when it becomes an issue, if it becomes an issue in Marshfield? So we'll start with Mark.
Well, I think it's pretty cut and dry. God didn't make anybody, God made you for a reason, okay? So I don't see it coming in our administration specifically here at Marshfield. I think we're all on the same page on that. Girls need to compete against girls, boys need to compete against boys on that. My personal stance is that there's no fine line between that, Jeff.
Okay, so kind of a follow-up question, and everyone's going to get it. So if our girls' sports team goes to a visiting school, and they're competing against a biological male, would you have a directive, does our school board have a directive in place that they says, look, our athletic director, our coaches, we are not going to allow them to compete against that team, we're pulling our kids?
So we haven't crossed that line. Personally, I don't want to micromanage anybody. I think that would be up to the coaches and the athletic director, the administrators on, hey, how do you want to treat this? Okay, we don't want to micromanage, but as I said, we haven't crossed that bridge. So it'd be interesting if that did happen on that. So I can't test.
Okay.
I can't say what I will do, what we would do for sure, and what policies would be in place for that.
Okay.
Because it hasn't come up yet.
Sure. Okay, Jill.
It's a really hard question. And if you're a Christian at all, which I think, we all are here, I always want to be compassionate to people. And gay and transgender youth have a very high suicide rate, and they're also attacked and assaulted. The assault rate for them is really high. So we have a lot of work to do just as a society to be compassionate to people that are going through these kind of things. And as a school board member, we are obligated to be nonpartisan and also to provide a safe environment for all kids. So you're trying to balance all this stuff out. And I've been thinking and reading a lot about it. I don't know if we have any transgender kids at Marshfield. I know that we have some gay kids, and we have a lot of confused kids and a lot of kids who don't have parents who are helping, and just a lot of problems that relate to this whole area. So I guess the good thing about being on the school board is nobody gets to make those decisions themselves. The board talks it over, and we make a decision as a board based on best practice, on what's the best science, what's the best legalities. There's a lot of legal problems with this too, because if you don't handle it right legally, you're going to get sued. So, that's something to think about with the school board. I read the MSHA guidelines for gay and transgender youth in Missouri. The state of Missouri for athletics has come out with some guidelines to help school boards deal with this. So I don't have just like a black and white answer. I do feel like that everybody needs to be treated with respect and dignity and fairness, and we don't want to get sued as a school board, so we have to think about those things, and hopefully we'll reach a consensus as a board.
Okay, Travis.
For me, it's pretty cut and dry, just like Mark said. God only made two genders. Boys can compete against the boys, girls against the girls. That's pretty much where it is. As a school board member, we're there to represent the public, and I think the public has very strong opinions about it. Overall, I think in Marshall we probably have a very conservative community for the most, and I think that most people probably would be and think along the same lanes that I would, that, boys with boys, girls with girls. So for me, that's where it's at.
Okay, Tara.
I think biologically, when you have different amounts of testosterone, obvious size difference, I just don't think it would be fair to have, a male competing with females. And it's really unfair to these female athletes who have, they've worked years and years to get scholarships to better their education, further their education, and then have these things taken away from them after all this hard work. But biologically, males are going to have an advantage, have more muscle mass, usually in general are taller, bigger. It's not fair. Now I have a daughter who's still, she's in 4th grade and still wants to beat all the boys, and she would be fine with racing them, or she was telling me about doing push-ups today and trying to beat the boys. So, I'm not saying that women aren't capable of beating some of these, athletes, but I don't think it's fair.
Okay, thank you. Jeanette.
So I feel like it's pretty cut and dry also. God created man and woman, and that's how it is. I am a very proud girl sports mom, as you are too. Girl sports, they had lagged behind boys sports for a long time. I'm fortunate that my daughters don't experience that, and that we play different year-round sports. But I feel like that is taking a back step, and it's making a very unfair advantage to, to let boys compete in girls' sports especially. So I feel like it's a step backwards.
Okay, thank you. Jen, I want to start with you on this follow-up to another social question that's kind of really big in our country right now, and you hear a lot of talk about it being taught in public schools and a lot of outcry about it, and it's critical race theory. What is your position on critical race theory and that being taught in public schools? Want you to know your opinion on that.
I'm not in favor of CRT. I believe in teaching history, and I believe in teaching the good parts and the bad parts because we're supposed to learn from history. If we don't learn from history, we will repeat it. So I think it's very important that our teachers feel comfortable teaching history. I actually asked that specific question if it was to the meeting that I had this week with Mr. Henry. I asked if that was in our schools. He said absolutely not. It's not in the schools at all. I asked him if it was attached to any federal funds or being pushed federally, because as running for school board, I've learned in this process that sometimes the government likes to attach federal funds to push different agendas. So he assured me that it was not. And I can assure everyone that Mr. Henry is, very like-minded, and, I really don't feel like that will be a problem here, and I just pray that I'm right.
Okay, thank you. Tara.
I do not think it has a place in Marshfield schools or probably any schools. I've tried to read up on it a little bit because honestly, depending on who the author is, you get a completely different theory when you're reading up on it. I think if you treat everyone the way that God intends you to treat people, which is with kindness and love, no matter what race you are, I think you can't go wrong with that. And I'm glad that Marshfield schools currently do not have that within the teachings at the school. And I think with a lot of the teachers that we have and the school board that we have, hopefully, I don't think that'll be an issue, hopefully.
Good. Travis.
I'll be honest, when I first started down this path, I didn't know a lot about the critical race theory, but someone actually reached out to me very early on and asked me about this. And so, like Tara, I kind of started to look it up and research it a little bit. And I honestly have to say I couldn't support us having it in the school. As I told someone that reached out to me on social media, I don't see where there's any where it's any part of the fundamentals of education. It just really has no place. It's not even, in my mind, it's not even a topic that we should even consider having in schools.
Okay. Jill.
Well, I just graduated with my master's in education, and it wasn't mentioned at the master's level at all as a theory. And so my understanding about theories, though, is that you don't teach somebody a theory. A theory is more of a framework or a tool that you might use to ask a question, and then it would guide your research. But it's never really proven or not proven. It's just a theory. A theory is a theory. That's in academics. So in researching critical race theory, I was kind of surprised that, in my program, it was never promoted as a theory because it's, from what I understand, it's about 40 years old, this theory is, and it was used in some advanced education, like graduate level programs for master's and even doctorate, mostly doctorate levels, as one of the theories that you might use when you're doing and it's usually a pretty obscure research, which, like for my master's, it was a very obscure question that I was asking, and I used probably 4 theories as frameworks to guide my research. And then at the end, I answered the question. And so that's in general what a theory is supposed to be used for. But in early childhood education, as well as all the way up through high school and including bachelor's level, you're not required to do academic work at that level. So I'm not sure where this all came from. I never heard about it until it was on the news. So I'm thinking, I talked to Mr. Henry about it too, because I couldn't figure out where this all came from. But I don't believe that that's being taught at Marshfield schools, and I don't think developmentally kids would be academically able to even use any of those kind of theories probably even maybe at the bachelor's level, but probably not until they're in a graduate program or even a doctorate program. And correct me if I'm wrong, because you have a doctorate, right? Did you have to do research and theories and?
Not with that, no.
Yeah. Well, it's more of an academic, like for education type majors, maybe more so than some of us in healthcare, you know.
Okay, Mark.
Tough subject. Just as I said, we went through this with school board meetings. It's not in our curriculum. It's not being taught that we know of. There has been a parent group started, kind of a watchdog for the school and the school board that has just started recently, and they're there to help the school board as a whole keep an eye on, because we all don't have kids from every age group, kind of keep a watchdog, and they kind of report back to us as a civic duty on there. But yeah, it is a tough concept. I don't think it belongs in the school. Currently reading a book, Bodie Bachman's Fault Lines, and it's a pretty interesting read on that from a Christian perspective on that. It really is. And as we said, it's a theory. It's not a fact. It's whenever we see media portraying it as this is what it should be, and that's what they're teaching the kids. And I think that's the problem, is they're trying to point their views onto the kids. And of course, that's what we hear right now. We're great. Midwest, we're great. But we need to keep in prayer not only for our state, but our federal government. They don't try to push this agenda in something like that.
Okay, good. Couple of last questions. These are real easy one answer questions. This one, Mark, you're probably going to be left out on, but someone asked me to ask this today, and I thought it was a great question. How many school board meetings have you attended in the last year, if any? So let me start. We'll just go down the road. Joe.
Well, I'm just getting over COVID. I'm not contagious or anything, but I actually was going to go to the one in April, so I'd have to say 0, but I went to the website and I pulled the minutes and read all the minutes from the ones for the past year. Of course, there's the, when they go into closed session, so I don't know any of that information, but just the basics, I reviewed them, so I would say 0.
Okay, Travis.
0.
2. Tara.
I've not attended any of them.
Okay. Mark, all of them, right?
All of, yeah. Well, and we meet once a month. Unless it's a specific issue, we'll have a closed meeting, or when we hire principals.
Okay.
The head administration, they always bring 2 candidates to us, and we actually have one Monday to hire a shook principal.
Would you, last question for me, and then we'll have a time where you all can ask anything you would like. If you would like to ask a question, you can go to the mic. And then if we have any questions online, have we got any online at all yet? Okay, so you guys are getting off pretty good. But last question that I have for you, would you consider yourself a conservative, liberal, or moderate? We'll start with Mark.
A fiscal conservative.
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 I don't like those terms. I just, I vote for the person that I believe is their best candidate. I do believe in conservative values for the most part, with some exceptions.
Okay.
So I'm not, I can't ever see myself as just being rubber stamped with anything, because there are people on both sides of the aisle that I truly admire and I truly do not admire. So I'm just kind of an independent, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, so a moderate almost, maybe
I'm
an
kind
independent.
of a renegade.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I don't mean that, but.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Thank you guys for answering my questions. Anybody have any questions tonight from the audience they would like to ask? We've got one.
This probably be for Mark. Anyway, since you're on the school board, my question is, do you get to review any of the things that come up for teachers? In other words, their curriculum. Do you get to see that?
So, no, we don't ever review the curriculum per se. Mm-hmm. That's primarily what Dr. Louder's for. He's head of he's a superintendent there with that. If there is any question, there's been a few things that have come in on the school board that have been homework that have sent home with students that have brought to teachers, and they've been brought to the attention of the superintendent, and by association been brought to the school board, and we have reviewed those specific ones. But as far as curriculum specifically, no.
Okay, it's just everybody says CRT is not in the curriculum here.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that if you don't get
We
to see
we
it?
trust the administrators that are in charge of
Do you
it.
trust this Louder?
Pardon me?
You trust Gary
Dr. Louder, Mr. Henry, Dr. Valentine,
Yeah, I know who
yes.
he is. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? Any other questions? Going once?
I'm going to use this mic because it's a little bit closer. Yeah. You got a good walk. I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts on paying the support staff more, such as the nurses and the janitorial staff and such. If the teachers get a raise, what's your thoughts on giving them raises also? Because you do have some educated nurses, bachelors and above, that would probably like to work in the school here rather than drive to the other side of Springfield.
Let me start with Travis on this.
You know, currently, I mean, there are jobs everywhere, obviously, and so, you know, I personally have no problem with paying highly trained staff more. You know, if those jobs are hard for us to fill, then yes, obviously, we probably need to figure out a way to put some incentive there, and pay is definitely a good incentive for that stuff. You know, I currently work for the state, and they're doing the same type thing, trying to figure out how we can recruit more people, and obviously pay is always a number one factor for that.
Right, Tara.
I think support staff definitely deserves to be looked at for pay raises, and I think teachers just in general also, you know, support staff, everyone could use a pay raise, in my opinion. Now, funding that is, you know, another subject, but I know in the pharmacy, if our support staff, which is our technicians, if we didn't have them, we wouldn't run. And that's just like the schools. If you don't have your bus drivers or your janitors or your counselors, your nurses, it's just not going to run. And it's not going to be the great school system that Marshfield has without them. And so you just want to make sure to be able to keep them here and get new ones that are just as great.
Good, thank you. Jeanette.
Absolutely. I mean, your support staff is very important, if not just as important as teachers. You can't run a school if it's not clean, if there's not food, if there's not buses, if there's not, you know, anyone to, as far as support staff. I think just about everybody agrees that paras have one of the hardest jobs in the school district. And they absolutely deserve a raise. I had talked to Mr. Henry whenever we had a meeting about the 4-day school week, and the way I understood it was doing a 4-day was able to give them a raise. Is that correct? So, and then they will also be able to work the additional day if they want to on Mondays. So I believe so. They are technically getting a raise with the 4-day week. Is that right, Mark?
They are.
Okay.
They've decreased their hours, but increased their hourly pay.
Right,
So-
right. So, absolutely, 100%.
Okay, Jill.
Well, people are your greatest asset when you have a school or a hospital, all of these, you know, where it's a public service type stuff. People are your greatest asset, and it's also probably your greatest expense. But to me, I am all for it as long as we're fiscally responsible. That was number 3 on my high priorities for the school was finance and budget and good stewardship of the dollars. But I've never regretted investing in people in any of the jobs I've ever had. So I would say yes.
Mark.
Yeah, I think we need to pay good teachers, good custodians, good, the whole support staff in general, you know, but I reiterate, good teachers, good custodians. Most everybody, regardless if the teachers, cooks, custodians, butler, they're all there because they love the kids. Really, honestly and truthfully. And yes, it is about the money, and that's very, very important on that. But if we could sell more hamburgers and stuff like Wendy's does, we could raise things much significantly. Now, the school's done several things. Brian, they mentioned that on Mondays for the 4th day, or the day off, paras, anybody who's able to come in and work for the Boys and Girls Club. Along those lines, let's say you have some inspiring teachers along those lines. They're able to work for a scholarship towards furthering their education during that time also. There's also been some of the parents are going to be allowed to be able to tutor and things around to make some extra income like this. But yeah, we would love to pay everybody as much as we could, because nobody gets paid the hourly wage they deserve. Whether it's the paras, the cooks, the custodians, yeah, they get paid hourly or whatnot on that. But they do a lot of prep time inside and outside of school like that. So yes, if it would be great to do that, but it also has to be fiscally responsible for the school to take care of the whole, not just those individuals. But yes, the support staff is where it all starts.
Okay, any other questions from the audience? We got one online. We got one more from the audience. Okay, Shelley. Okay.
Shorter walk. It's a good one. Okay, good. It's out. Okay, sorry. This may not be either or, but for my curiosity, do you primarily see yourself as a representative of the community or of the school system? And depending on how you view that, I guess I don't know how to say it. Do you believe you would have what it takes? Because I kind of agree with what Travis has said. We kind of know the feel of the community, and we kind of know it goes against the narrative from federal. So would you have the backbone to go against that, even if it did mean a lawsuit? Because I'm kind of to the point, I'll protect my kids, take it to the lawsuit, I don't care. Because when it comes to boys competing against our girls, I'll protect my little girls any day. So where do you feel that you represent us or the school system, and how would you stand against that? Because I think it could probably get pretty nasty at times, and hopefully it doesn't. Our hopes and prayers are that it doesn't come to that, but working with kids, I think there are a lot of things that go on, and we know the pressures are coming from above down. So anyways.
Thanks, Shelley. So Tara, let's start with you on this.
I think I represent a good perspective just because as my husband's in education, I feel like I have the best interest of teachers and coaches and support staff, but then I also have kids in the schools, so I want to make sure that they're getting what's best for them and the people around them that are around them probably more than me sometimes during the day are the best people that we can have. And then also the community. I think I represent the community from working out in it. But as far as if we were getting pressured to have some of these things within our school system, I think you almost have to stand up to it. And because, this is one of the reasons why my kids are in Marshfield, is because I feel like they have good Christian leaders within the school. I'm sure not all of them are, but I feel like there's a majority that are, and they care for the kids. And to see something like that forced on our schools, someone's going to have to stand up for it. And hopefully it won't come to that here in southern Missouri, but it's possible, especially nowadays.
Jill.
Well, I have a granddaughter in school. She's a junior right now, and 2 of my kids graduated from Marshfield, and one of my other grandchildren graduated. So I feel like I'm kind of a parent in a way, because if I can get her in the car for a little while, she'll spill everything that's going on, and how all the policies and what's happening with masking at that, and which is like it was every week something new. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I'm more part of the school in that way, like as a parent. But I also feel, and I also haven't had experience on a board in the school. I actually worked as a substitute nurse and as a substitute teacher in the school before, but it's been a few years. So I have that perspective, but I'm maybe a little more on the outside right now from that, and maybe more as a parent than I would be part of the school unless I wind up with this. Now, as far as your answer with the school board, The good thing about the school board is it's nonpartisan. And so because of that, nobody on the school board goes out and makes decisions on their own. It's always a conversation. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, because you're on it, but that's my understanding, is that the school board discusses these things, and then we come to a majority vote, and then everybody that's on the board is expected to support that, regardless of what your individual beliefs are or opinion or whatever. If the school board as a body comes to a decision like that, we're all expected to support it. So, theoretically, if we made a decision to say, no, we're not going to allow, transgender youth to compete in the opposite sex sports or something like that, and that was the decision that was made, then as a board, we would be expected to all support that. And we might get sued for it, but I mean, if we all knew going into it, hey, we feel strongly enough about this that this is what we're going to do, then we'd be like Springfield Public Schools. I mean, they're getting sued right now. And 17 other school districts in the state are being sued right now by the Attorney General. So there's a lot of this going on, and part of it is we have to be careful with confidentiality. There's a lot of things that you have to be careful about, and what you talk about and what you know and who you tell what. But I think that we all are wise enough, especially when it's a group where you have several different people expressing their opinion, then you get a better decision that way. And I think we're all wise enough that we could hopefully keep ourselves out of too much trouble, but still try to do the right thing. And that's always the trick, isn't it? To try to do the right thing, do what's right, but also, not cost the school district millions in lawsuits or whatever. So it's kind of a tough job, I would think.
Mark.
I answer to the Bible, okay, and as far as that's concerned. Also within practicality, and then I'll use an example going against what the school board a few years ago, or whenever it was, our green, yellow, our different masking things. There was a vote to the, I believe the Webster County Health Unit recommended masking K through 12. I had a kindergarten at that time. He's not going to keep a mask on. That's not practical for them. It's been proven that it doesn't affect these little guys. And I was very adamant against that. Was it K through 4? I was okay with the 5th and grade up, but K through 4 or whatever that ended up being, very adamant that no, we do not need to put masks on these kids, regardless of what the rest of the majority wanted. I just thought that was more practical and it was best for the children on that. That's why I was just using that as an example. So,
Okay. Jeanette.
So as a board member, you are an elected official, so I think that you have a duty to listen to people that voted for you and people that pay taxes. So absolutely, I feel like you should listen and get input from the community on what they think and what they feel. You have to, if you're elected to the board, you also have to worry about liability issues, of course. Nobody on a school board would want to get caught in a liability or cause a liability, against the school. We do have tough issues. Like, we all hope that that's not coming to our hometown. And I look at things a little bit differently with my husband being in law enforcement, and I know, how quickly people can be victimized and that kind of thing. And I think anybody that knows me knows that I'm very opinionated, and I don't mind sharing my opinions. I will for sure listen to everyone, and I can, change my opinion by listening to you. But I'm not going to apologize for standing up for a child ever.
Okay. Travis.
As the school board as a whole has to make decisions for the school. However, as I said before, the school board is a small group that's representing the public, and so I feel like it's our job to be taking the issues that the public has and taking them to the school board, because not everyone wants to go to that meeting, not everyone wants to bring up that tough issue. So for me, wholeheartedly representing the community, and like I said, that's what we're there for. So for me, yeah, I'm willing to stand up and say, this is how I feel, this is what we need to be doing. and I'm not saying I'm trying to go against the administration, but the administration is there to represent the school, and I'm there to represent the community.
Okay, thank you. We're going to do this as a last question. It's from online. Is this the only question you've got online, correct? Okay. This is going to be our last question of the night. This is what it says, Matt Holt runs a top-tier wrestling program and doesn't have a home to practice facility-wise. Along those lines, with more and more schools getting turf, do you believe the athletic facilities need to be upgraded to stay even with the facility race here in Southwest Missouri? So I'm going to start with Travis.
As a whole, yeah, probably so. Obviously, like every other decision, there's a lot that has to be factored into that. We have to be financially responsible, but, the better that we can improve our facilities, the better we can do for our children, the better they can try to improve on all those things athletic-wise.
Okay. Jeanette.
So I travel to a lot of different schools. My daughter's in track and softball, and she has been in wrestling and volleyball. I would say our sports facilities, some of them are lacking. I hope that is getting better. I know that track and field, for sure, the throwing is way below what other, districts our sizes, but they're building new, and I'm sure that that's going to be, better and more comparable. We have a huge, awesome wrestling program, and we need to support it because kids are getting scholarships. It's great for kids to be physically active. Sports is more than just the sport. My kids have learned teamwork, self-discipline, having coaches to mentor them. It's more than just a sport. It well rounds the kids, and I think that we need to keep that always in mind.
Okay, thank you. Mark.
The question was great. Matt Hull's a great guy, great coach. He's built that program from bottom up. The school has a 5-year plan for certain things, and they take voting from the teachers and community, and we had that bond money. We're building a new early childhood center, and by far and away that was the number one based on community need and the school board, or not school board, but the teachers. That's what they thought. Hey, we got to get these kids started young on that. It's going to be great for the community. Number 2 was a safe room between Shook and the high school, because there's not a safe room on that campus. And Mr. Henry's plan is still that at some point to have that as the wrestling facility, along with doubling as a safe room. So it's definitely on the agenda. It's just you got to be fiscally responsible with the money. We just don't have money growing out of trees. Hey, we don't have money to build a $5 million facility. But there are a lot of things, and people don't need to take away. They say, well, that's just for sports. No. We turf a field. That's been mentioned. That was mentioned in the question there. A lot of schools have turf. Hey, band gets to practice on it all the time. They don't have to they don't have to practice at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night when football's done with. Elementary schools can go participate on it when their playground is wet and soaked. Those fields, and even some type of other multi-purpose room like that where wrestling could call itself home. Because right now, yeah, it's tough. They go from the Ox Gym to our high school cafeteria is their wrestling room come usually January 1st. So it is a problem because they have close to, between girls and boys, they have close to 60 to 70 kids out at the high school level alone. So it is definitely a need because that program's growing, and it's taken off at the junior high now too.
Okay, thank you. Jill.
Well, I love sports, and so I'm really, really I like to go to the football games. I love the soccer team is great. I'd like to see them add a fishing team. That's something they have in Lebanon now, and I've heard a lot of the kids say, that would be fun. So I'm all for that. The bigger issue to me, and I don't know as much detail as you do, Mark, about it, but the bigger issue that I'm looking at is why is it that rural schools don't have the same opportunities that other bigger school districts have? And part of it's a complex problem, and part of it is that our tax base is lower, and then part of it is that we have increased costs that are unique. When that's things like transportation costs, and then this came to light, with the situation with COVID, is that so many kids didn't have decent internet to try to do in-home learning. So we have, as rural school districts, we have unique problems, but we have extra blessings as well, so it balances each other out. But this is one of the big things that I'm interested in advocating for at whatever level we can, is to get politicians thinking more and educating them about the unique problems that rural schools have. Because we'd like to have our kids have a specialty coach for soccer, which I know they finally did get one, but back when my kids were in, it was the wrestling coach was actually the soccer coach, and he didn't know how to help them. He tried, and to see this wrestling program grow, all these different things that kids have an opportunity to be exposed to. I think that's what they should be doing developmentally when they're in high school, all the way from grade school up. But hey, look at all these different things and try different things. See what you might like. But when you have such limited resources, as many rural schools do, they don't get as many opportunities, and that's inequity, and it's not right. And I think as a school board, we have to advocate for our particular school and rural schools in general, just for these types of things where they're going to get facilities that are equal to what they have in Ozark or, Catholic high school. We compete against all those kids, but we don't have the same opportunities. Our kids don't. And that's unequal, and it shouldn't be. But somebody's going to have to, educate the politicians about it and try to advocate for policy changes.
Tara.
I'm just curious if my husband asked that question online.
He did.
Did he really?
I wasn't going to say that, but it was him, yes.
Okay, well, when I went to talk to Mr. Henry, I had asked my husband, what kind of things do you think I need to be talking to Mr. Henry about? And he said, you need to ask about getting Cody Bull turf field and Matt Holt a wrestling room. Always looking out for the coaches.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's opportunities with outside funding from businesses in the community, because we do have such a great community that supports all of, all of our kids, and whether it's theater, band, I think we definitely need to be looking at those things and giving our kids, these opportunities. And like the turf field, it does benefit the band. They're not having to practice, right now you can't step on the football field. And then you have opportunities for your youth also, your youth football games and even soccer. And so I think that, looking at outside funding is a great way to get some stuff in for our kids and our community. And the wrestling is really, it's quite the program. We have probably more girl wrestlers than any other school I've seen. And that's a lot of opportunities, scholarship-wise for them too. And so, I know he does work really hard for those kids from youth on, so.
So I know you, Mark, you had one other thing. Let's close with this. I'm going to give you each an opportunity for closing thoughts, and include this within your closing thoughts. Let's start with you, Mark.
Well, going back to the rural community or the bigger towns, a lot of those fields are funded corporately. You follow me there. Springfield, have all kinds of big corporations, and that's a big part of it. Every one of those coaches have researched, hey, what's it going to cost? And so they've done their due diligence on that. Closing remarks. Thanks, Crossbridge, Jeff, your conservative group. Thank for that. Thank for everybody who has attended. Thank for the other candidates. When the voters go out next week, I don't think they can go wrong with any one of us here. I just encourage you to do your civic duty and go out there and do it. It is a privilege. Not everybody in the world gets to vote and gets to say in what your public officials can be.
Absolutely. Tara.
What was sorry?
Just any closing thoughts? Any closing thoughts you want to share? You didn't get to mention tonight, or anything you want to say?
I think it'll be a good opportunity to help support our teachers and our kids, and I'll do that in any way that I can, whether on the school board or as a parent. I'll be glad to do that.
Thank you. Jeanette.
Well, since I'm a softball mom, I have to go back to turf. So we had went to some smaller schools, and they use one turf field for softball and baseball, which I thought was a great idea to use it as a dual purpose and only have one to maintain. As far as closing remarks, thank you for having this. Thank you for getting the community involved in voting. One thing, as soon as I would tell people I was running for school board, they asked if we were doing this forum again. I think everybody really enjoyed it. And thank you for everybody coming out. And I would just really love the opportunity to serve as your board member.
Thank you. Travis.
Well, same as everyone else, I'm happy to have this opportunity. I'm thankful we could all be here and just, have a good discussion and everybody just tell exactly how they feel about stuff, my biggest concern, is going into this, honestly, I'd never, in my mind, when I knew Mark was running for re-election, I never even considered that I could beat him, so I thought, well, if I can just beat 3 other people, to be honest. But, I'm just excited to have the opportunity. In my life, I've never really set out to do anything that I didn't ultimately end up achieving. And I think next week, I just encourage everybody to get out and vote. I think it's going to be a very close vote no matter what, and I'm just really excited for the opportunity.
Thank you. Jill.
Well, thank you for everyone who came out tonight. I appreciate it. I guess I would just say that I'm here because I've had enough time in my life to decide what's really important. And for me, education, it literally changed my life. Education changed my life. And I remember the day I learned to read. I was like 6 years old, and I can't even tell you how excited I was when I could read. And then I remember going to the library, and I didn't have it was kind of a rough time at home, but I could go to the library, and there's books there that just opened my world to everything, every possibility, anything that I could, that you want to do. If you can read, you can do it. You can learn it. And that's so exciting to me. I remember teachers, and this is one reason I want so much to support the teachers and to recruit other excellent teachers for this district, is because there were teachers in my life that literally changed my life, that believed in me, that showed me that I could do things that I had no idea I could do. And I didn't have high expectations for myself, but some of the teachers that I encountered, they were fair, and they gave me a chance and really showed me that I could do things. And that's the kind of school system, that's the vision that I have for this school, even though it's a rural school, and it does have some disadvantages, it has a ton of advantages as well. And this community is one of them, one of the greatest ones. So, I'll just close with that whoever, whatever the vision is collectively for our community, that we, I think we all have the same vision for this school, and we all have the right foundation too when it comes to our beliefs and how we're going to use those to work together.
So I just want to thank you guys for coming out tonight. I didn't give them the questions ahead of time, and so I know that can be stressful, but I thank you guys for coming out. I thank Crossbridge for allowing us to use the facilities tonight to do this. I encourage everybody that's watching and here to go out and vote on Tuesday. It is, as Mark, I think, said, a privilege and an honor that we live in a country that we can do that. Even if you're watching online and you completely disagree with me politically, please go vote. You need to go vote, and I'm going to go and vote. And so I appreciate you guys, your willingness to be here tonight and to do this. And I'm excited about Tuesday. I also want to add, before I close this in prayer, that we have a whole bunch of races coming up this year for county races and state races. This is just our first forum that we're going to hold of question and answers. We plan on doing this later on in the year with county races. and ultimately, hopefully, some state races if those candidates will come and get on the hot seat here. And ultimately, before the general election in November, any of those candidates that oppose one another on the ballot, I'd love to have them here to ask them questions, and the people can get to know them. So once again, thank you guys for coming. Let's close in prayer tonight. Lord Jesus, I thank you again just for the opportunity to be here tonight, Lord, and to talk about our community, which you want us deeply involved with as followers of yours, not only sharing the gospel, but being engaged in our local government, in our school system. And Lord, I think you expect that of us, to bring the light. We're supposed to be salt and light, and we're supposed to be in every part of our community with that salt and light. And so, Lord, I think it's a responsibility of ours, something that we can't neglect. And I thank you, Lord, for these candidates tonight coming and their willingness to serve in our community. And Lord, I pray for them, and you know who you have in place already for this position. So I pray for them, and I pray for our community. I pray for our country tonight, Lord. And as we leave here, keep us safe, and in all things we glorify and honor you. It's in your name I pray. Amen.